Yo, so someone in my comments asked me to make a Cryo Neutron Capture Harlowe build. So I figured I'd give it a shot. And let me tell you, I did not expect it to be quite this strong when I was making this build. It's crazy in UVH 6, and it is true UVH 6 viable. Now, there are 3 different kind of versions of this build that I run and that I tried with, and they all highlight and use different capstones of the Chroma Accelerator skill tree. So it lets you kind of mess around with the capstones that I personally didn't get to mess around with a lot. So it is a lot of fun to give it a try. I definitely recommend. But without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. Cryo Neutron Capture Harlowe. Now, I made a Neutron Capture build for Harlowe, and I'm not going to lie, I think that's the best Neutron Capture build there is. But someone in my comments asked me to make a Cryo version of the Neutron Capture build, and I was like, fuck it, I haven't tried that, I want to do it. And when I was trying it, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, Neutron Capture itself is really fucking strong. Shocker. But the Cryo version of it is also very strong, which I don't know why I was surprised at that, but I kind of was. Another thing that it does is it allows you to use some of the other capstones instead of just Demon Core. Like with the Neutron Capture build, you're generally stuck into going this middle one. But this build lets you try the other 2 out, which I think is really fun. I think builds that are focused around fun and not around being the best are great. And this build also has great diversity. You can kind of twist it and build it in a couple of different ways to make it super fun to use and very effective, even at true UVH 6, which I'll get to. Now, I go over all of the Neutron Capture details over in the other Harlowe Neutron Capture build, so if you haven't seen that, and I don't talk on all of the details of exactly how this build works, go ahead and watch that video first. I'm not going to go into all that detail here in this video. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of go over it more quickly. Okay, so the first 5 points we're going into, field ready prototype. This gives you action skill damage, and the reason why you want that is because Chroma Accelerator deals action skill damage, and the more damage Chroma Accelerator deals, the more damage Neutron Capture deals. Now, this takes a portion of the action damage that you deal and converts it to your gun as gun damage, and this is best amplified with fire rate because it's flat damage being repeated, and it's not percent damage. Again, if you want details on that, go to the other Harlowe Neutron Capture build and watch that video, and I explain it better there. Then we're going to throw 5 points into Cyclotron for more fire rate, and 5 points into Elementary. These 3 skills are really the only skills that are going to benefit us in terms of damage for this build, because we are speccing into Cryo, not Radiation. So the Radiation is normally what we spec into on the Neutron Capture build, but this is a Cryo version, so we're not speccing into that. Next, we're going 5 points into Practical Applications. This is really just so you can get down to Break the Ice, which converts all of your Chroma Accelerator damage, which is your action skill, into Cryo damage. That's really important because this is a Cryo build. Pausing real quick just to add that Break the Ice also converts your Neutron Capture damage into Cryo damage. So it would normally be Radiation, but now it's Cryo. That's an important detail. You can kind of go either capstone here. You can try the Shattering Light, which gives you like 5 shots of the Chroma Accelerator instead of one big one. That's like 5 smaller ones. Or you get Cue Ball, which means it can bounce around and it does a shit ton of damage. You can control where it bounces, which I didn't know until trying this. But you cannot control when it blows up. You cannot control when it manually blows up, which is a big part and is very important in this capstone. It actually makes it feel a little clunky because it's active for so long and then it blows up, but you only get Neutron Capture for 8 seconds after it blows up. So because it's active for so long, there's a lot of time where you don't have Neutron Capture active, so it doesn't feel quite as good, but it's still really fun to mess around with, so I definitely encourage that. But since we're going this capstone for this build, I throw 5 points into Mechanical Brilliance, giving you more skill damage. It's more damage for your Neutron Capture and your Chroma Accelerator. And then 5 points in Rounding Up. This is giving you gun damage. We don't really scale off of gun damage that well, so you don't really need that. You can go any other skill here just to get down to the capstone. I just go this because, you know, you might as well. You can get this one where when you enter Fight for Your Life, you throw out an Unstable Energy Pocket. But this doesn't proc Neutron Capture. I played around with it. I was hoping that this would proc Neutron Capture, and that would be really cool. Same thing with the Melee. This fires another unstable energy pocket as a melee override on a cooldown. If this proc Neutron Capture and this proc Neutron Capture, these would be so fun to go with this build, but unfortunately they don't. So going them is just for fun of trying them out, which I did. I didn't think they were that strong, so I don't spec into them. And this is what we're going as our capstone, the Shattering Light. Next, we're going into the blue tree. You need Make Extraordinary. This skill is so broken. It gives you up to like, what is it? Up to 70% skill crit chance when it's fully stacked, which is crazy. So we're going 5 points into that. Excuse me. Next, we're going to go 1 point in negative entropy. This just lets us get 3 points into precision engineering, which gives you crit damage. This is some of the most crit damage you get on a point. It's 10% crit damage per point, which is a lot per point. So we want to go 3 into that when we can. But anyway, we're going 1 point into this and 4 points in a periodic table flip for the more elemental damage. Then we're going to go 3 points into precision engineering and 1 point into ripple effect. This is just for quality of life, but it is nice quality of life for mobbing. So great to have. And then we're going to throw 1 point into cryodynamics. We do have 2 extra points at the end of this build, and I do throw them in here just for the extra cryo damage. But you don't need to throw them in there. You can put them wherever you want. I just happen to throw them in here, so I wanted to mention that those 2 aren't necessary to get down to the next tree, which is really the goal of going here. And we're going cryo damage, and this middle tree is all about cryo damage. It gives you a shit ton. We love that shit. Let's go. So the first one's Unstable Isotope. It's a kill skill giving you 35% bonus damage dealt as cryo damage, which is great. But there's no way to proc kill skills besides killing things, which means when you're bossing, you want to make sure you kill one of the smaller mobs relatively often so that you can keep this up, because this 35% is a lot of damage, especially because we're getting so many amps to our cryo damage. Then we're going to throw 1 point into Flash Freeze, giving you, when you deal cryo damage with an action skill, you get a chance to freeze that enemy. And because we have a point to break the ice, our Chroma Accelerator converts into cryo damage, which is great. So every time you use an action skill, you can freeze with this. And again, with this capstone here, the Shattering Light, you have 5 shots. So you can freeze everyone, which it feels really cool and really fun and really awesome. Because you shoot out all the 5, you freeze the guys, and you can spam them with your shots with your Neutron Capture when they're frozen. It's great. Okay. Then we're going to throw the rest of our points in to keep ice on that. The other 2 skills aren't really giving us damage. This is giving us action skill cooldown rate, which we do kind of need, but it doesn't give us enough. And it's only on freezing enemies, which you can't do on bosses. And really, we only need the cooldown rate for bossing. So, yeah, very good to have cooldown, but this skill in particular is not very helpful for us. And this is giving us flat damage, which is good for AoE. It's good for, mobbing, but it's not great for bossing. And speccing into bossing damage is really what we want to go for. Then our final point, we're going to throw in a triple point. This just gives you, if you're doing cryo damage, you get more cryo damage. If you're not doing cryo damage, you get cryo damage. It's just so good for the cryo damage. We have so much cryo damage. Let's say cryo damage again. Holy shit. Okay. So that's the basis of the build. Now, I'm just going to go over a couple of specs here that you can also go to change it up. But this is what this one looks like. You have 5 shots with this capstone of like smaller things, right? So this actually lets you rack up more damage. Like, look at that damage. It's crazy. This actually lets you rack up like more damage overall with your action skill, because it's 5 shots. And you can kind of place them in crowded areas and get more damage overall than you would be able to with any other capstone. But it takes more time. So that's something to note. The thing, though, is that this action skill damage is actually a lot. So, yeah, you can just mob with it or boss with it even pretty effectively. And it's really strong, which is really fun. Okay, so this is a spec I would go if I was running the cue ball capstone instead. Now, you'll see the issue with the cue ball capstone when I show you some gameplay of it, which I'll have to go and actually film some gameplay using it mobbing just so you can kind of get an idea. But it is really fun to use. I definitely recommend giving it a try and playing around with it because it's just fun to use generally. Instead of going the points down into the right skill tree over here, we're going to throw 4 points into carry the 1. This is really just to get down to the capstone. You could go into core sample, giving more lifesteal against frozen enemies, but you get so much lifesteal on your cryo damage from keep ice on that anyway. You don't need it. So having the quality of life from carry the 1 is nice. But again, this doesn't really do much for you. So you're actually getting more damage if you go into the other tree. But it is nice to try out this capstone, and it is still really strong. It does like crazy damage. The next points we're going to throw into are 5 into Mechanical Brilliance just for the skill damage, and then I throw the last extra point I have into finishing out Periodic Table Flip just for more elemental cryo damage, all that stuff. But the whole bit with this capstone is it bounces, you can't really control where it goes, but if you recast, it'll actually kind of jump in the direction that you recast. And then eventually it blows up, and then it does it because it did a shit ton of damage. Your neutron capture goes crazy for the 8 seconds, and then you run it back and you repeat, right? And essentially that's it. But the problem with this is because the cue ball lasts so long before it blows up and you can't manually control it, you have a lot of period of time kind of waiting around for it to blow up where you don't have neutron capture active. And that doesn't feel quite as good or as consistent as the other builds, which is why I don't recommend this one quite as much for consistency. However, I do recommend it for fun. It's still really good at melting bosses. You just have to wait for it to finish, which is, you know, kind of a minuscule complaint. But it's a lot of fun to use, and that's definitely the spec I would go to try that skill out. Okay, and this is the spec that I would go if you don't like either of the other capstones and you kind of want more of like the normal chroma accelerator. This is also the most consistent one for true UVH6. If you want to try true UVH6 with cryo neutron capture, this is the one that I would go for. Or the one that's at least the most consistent, specifically for things like Bloomreaper and stuff like that. For pretty much everything else, you won't really have any problems with either of the other builds at true UVH6, to be completely honest. But this is just for if you want to try that. Anyway, so we're going to go the same 3 skills here. And then we're going to go exactly the same 5 into practical applications and 1 into break the ice. And the exact same blue tree. So 5 points here, 1 here, 4 here, 3, 1, 1. 5 there, 4 here, 1 here, 1 here, right? Okay. I know that was a little confusing, but I'm sure you'll follow that. And then we go into the green tree just so we can get down to confirmative reality. We're getting an extra 25% crit damage from momentum, and then we're just getting some extra reload speed as quality of life because none of these things actually will affect our damage. You could go for action at a distance for better mobbing, but our mobbing is already so strong. And we aren't really irradiating enemies, nor do we benefit from gun damage that much, so neutron decay isn't actually giving us that much either. But this lets us throw 2 points into confirmative reality, which basically solves our action skill uptime problem. You'll see that our action skill uptime problem is being solved currently on the other builds by a class mod, which helps a lot. But if you don't want to go that, or if you want to go other class mods, this kind of fixes all of that, and you're still going cryo neutron capture. And it's a little bit more consistent just because instead of it being kind of the wonky chroma accelerator, it's just the standard chroma accelerator you know and love. Very simple, easy to use. You can blow it up whenever, and then when you shoot things, you get it back pretty much instantly. Yeah, very good for true UVH6 and for consistency, but not as much fun, so fuck that shit. I'm going to talk about the other ones now. Let's go. Okay, as for items and gear and weapons and that, all right? Weapons, high fire rate is the name of the game. If you don't know neutron capture, high fire rate. Fire rate is basically like it juices neutron capture like crazy. My favorite weapon for mobbing, bossing, pretty much everything when it comes to neutron capture is the Mad Lad. Very high fire rate weapon, and because it's a COV weapon, you never have to reload. It heats up very quickly, but it also unheats up very quickly. So you can actually fire this thing in bursts, and the bursts that it takes will absolutely one-shot any enemy you spray it at. And then by the time you lock on to another target, you know, by switching targets or whatever, it's already cooled down completely. Like, it's so good for mobbing. The synergy is great with this build just because of the fire rate. But other weapons that I like are the Lucian's Flank. The Flash Cyclone is also really strong because it's a cryo weapon and also relatively high fire rate. The Wombo combo is obviously very nice for vile enemies. You could also go stuff like the Bonnie and Clyde. The Roulette's very good. Bonnie and Clyde will, like, you won't have any ammo issues or reloading issues with this, so that's also very effective. But really go whatever weapon you want. But lean towards high firing weapons and weapons with lots of entities of damage, lots of instances of damage. That's the word. Things with lots of pellets or whatever. like something like the Broken Wings. I think I have one of those here, maybe. Or spread shotguns, but again, high fire rate is the name of the game. The Rainmaker would be crazy, like with the shotgun Daedalus. Oh, this thing would be nutty. Yeah, all that stuff is really, really good for the Cryo build. For gear, the rep kit, we're gonna go a triple bypass. We're going this because with caffeine, which is down here, our specialization. This lets you get your action skill back very easily, very quickly if it ever does go down, so it helps a lot with consistency. I have mine giving extra elemental damage, which is obviously very nice to have because we do so much cryo damage with this build. The next, we're going to go the Bismuth Tip Dagger. You don't need this. You already have enough damage, but if you're in true UVH 6, you need the most damage possible. Any boss, just spam them with a couple of these. You're dealing more cryo damage. They're going to get bopped. It's good. The class mod we're going is the Skeptic. Now, why the Skeptic? I'm a big fan of this class mod, specifically because of Stunlock, which it gives you a skill. If you don't know what Stunlock is, when you crit an enemy, it will basically float them into like a little stasis bubble, but more importantly, it entangles them, which means if you do have points in a confirmative reality, then entangling them when you don't have your action skill available means if there's no enemies that are entangled around, you can entangle one using the Stunlock, getting a headshot, and then you can spam them to get your action skill back, which is very nice. But this also comes with another secondary kind of effect here. It says shooting enemies with status effects, with an active status effect, restores 5% of your action skill cooldown. So if you apply an action skill to, or a status effect to an enemy, and you spam them with your high fire rate weapon, this also gets your action skill cooldown back pretty much instantly. So if you do have any action skill issues, just throw in a Skeptic, and you no longer do, which is great. Very convenient, very nice to have, and very good to use with the for fun cryo builds for sure, because these action skills can be a little bit tricky to get back up at times. Now, I did forget to mention this, but if you are spec down into confirmative reality with the true UVH setup that I was mentioning, you don't actually need the Skeptic to be your class mod of choice. Instead, the best class mod for bossing damage is going to be the Reactor. You want specifically 5 points into Decoherence. Now, again, I speak in a way more detail of why this is so strong in my previous Neutron Capture Harlowe build, but just know that this skill is really, really strong, specifically when it comes to its interaction with Neutron Capture. So, if you do want the most bossing damage and the most consistent damage for true UVH 6, I would go the Reactor. Next, we're going to go for a Siphon Watts for dinner. You don't really need Amp because we're not scaling with gun damage. We're scaling with skill damage. Siphon just helps for survivability, but you have so much lifesteal with this build, you don't need it. Watts for dinner, you know, just having the overshield is always good. But again, you have so much lifesteal, you're going to have the overshield because you're healing from shooting and dealing cryo damage from Keep Ice on that. Next is your enhancement. You can really just do this for whatever gun you want. Now, I have one that does 20% extra damage for COV. This is really set out for my Mad Lad. Gives extra mag size, fire rate, and gun damage. Gun damage isn't actually really going to help you that much. You really want fire rate and mag size. Those are the big two. There's another Daedalus thing. This one, Accelerator. Where you get 1% fire rate for each bullet fired up to a maximum of 50%, which reset on reload. But on the Mad Lad, you don't have to reload. So this, with fire rate, magazine size, stuff like that, because magazine size does actually affect how long you can shoot COV weapons. This would be the enhancement that I would go for. Again, I love the Mad Lad, so this is really just for juicing the Mad Lad, but in my opinion, it's the best weapon on these types of builds. So I would go for one of those if you can find one. Legendary, you know, not legendary, doesn't really matter. Next, specializations. Next, firmware. We're going 3 into Skillcraft. It's all you need. Doesn't matter what else you go. Now, I did go 3 into... I did go 3 into Bullets to Spare at first before Skillcraft was out. That was the way to go, and you can still try it, and it's still a lot of fun. But Skillcraft is probably more damage. This is more fire rate. Up to you. Play around. Have fun with it. And then for secondary, if you wanted the most damage, it's going to be 3 Skillcraft and then 2 into Action Fist. An Action Fist just gives you an extra 30% action skill damage when you get to the secondary tier. And that's going to juice our Chroma Accelerator, which juices our Neutron Capture, blah, blah, blah. Big damage. All right, specializations. We're going... Normally, I went all 3 into the Daredevil here. So now with caffeine, I've already explained how with the triple bypass, it helps you with like the getting your action skill back up when it's down, when you're in a pinch. A honed mind gives you extra. This is actually skill damage or skill crit hit damage and skill crit chance, not action skill. This is wrong. So this is proccing on our neutron capture and on our chroma accelerator. Big damage from this. This is really, really good. Then we're going to go 1 point into, or 1 point. Then we're going to go the best defense. Just gives you 30% bonus damage when your shields are full, which we have so much shield, so much over shield. This is always up. And then 1 into groundbreaker. Now I did go I am a gun, but because we're not specking that much gun damage, this isn't actually giving us that much skill damage. So it's not worth. Going to groundbreaker is better for the boss bursts, which I think is more fun. And also just does a shit ton more damage. Like it's so much damage from groundbreaker, which is really fun to play around with. And that is pretty much the build. Holy shit. I know my videos are so long. I try and like fucking talk through, like scurry through talking through these videos. I forgot my camera's on this one, so hi. But yeah, I hope you like the builds. This is just really for that one dude who commented asking me to try the Cryo Neutron Capture Harlowe. And honestly, it was a lot stronger than I thought. It was a lot of fun to play around with. And something that I also messed around with, which I'm going to show here. You can also just switch your spec if you want and go into the blue tree and go for the 0 point action skill instead and mess around with this. This is really good for mobbing. It's a lot of fun to use. And what it also lets you do is just switch shit up when you're bored. When you're bored of using neutron capture, just switch it up to the 0 point when you're mobbing, and then when you want a boss and absolutely farm bosses and melt bosses, switch back to neutron capture. You know? So this gives you a lot of diversity, so you can switch things up when you're playing without having to respec, which I really appreciate because I'm a big fan of novelty and like just being able to keep things fresh, especially in this game with like the little bit of lacking end game and the little bit of, you know, lacking things to do. You know, it's really nice to be able to just set one build and be able to switch my spec whenever I want and kind of set it and forget it type thing, and be able to face anything in the game and just switch my spec for whatever I want to do, you know? So that's the build. If you like the video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a little like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.